Welcome back to Switch to Linux. Well, today we're going to talk about Linux, meaning ownership. This is an important topic, as I have always talked on this channel about privacy. I've also talked about this channel about ownership and about DRM and about if we give all of these companies all of this power by buying their streaming services instead of buying our media, they had the ability to revoke it at any time. And this is a fundamental challenge. This goes right on back to the World Economic Forum. Remember that article? They've, I believe, since pulled it because people kept on bringing awareness to it, going, this is a creepy dystopia. It says it's 2030. I own nothing and I couldn't be happier. That is the direction the world would like to move us to. I almost did this discussion as a tinfoil hat time, but there's only a single article. I just encountered it. I had some things to talk about. I don't really want to talk as much about that angle where they're wanting us to move in this direction as much as I want to talk about taking it back for ourselves with ownership. And that is what Linux allows us to do. And not just in the ways that you think. But as I was reading this article we are about to look at in a moment, I got to thinking, man, they have really put us into jail. And all of a sudden, the free software starts to make sense again. Now, there's been some discussion. Do you call it free? Do you call it Libre? You get the floss is oftentimes thrown out there. Stallman has said maybe if he could do it again, he would use a different word. But I think free might be about the right word because we are being put into walled garden prisons on every aspect of our life. And only when we harness the power of FOSS software can we bust out of that. And with this, Linux means ownership. So let's go ahead and have a look at this article here that I found from Vox. And it was a very well done article. I was kind of leaning towards, is this going to give us some solutions? The reality is, nope, zero solutions, but it does tell it like it is. And let's start with telling it like it is. Let's agree that our world is moving into a bad spot, and then let's talk about how Linux brings back ownership. Because in this article from Vox, which will be linked in the description of this video, it says the erosion of personal ownership. Everything from your fridge to your tractor can change without your permission. And as I look at this, I go, not my stuff. Not my stuff indeed. So the article is fairly long. We're not going to read all of it, but I do want to bring your attention to a few highlights through the article. This was a very captivating one. I encourage you to go and read the article for yourself. He starts in, him and I guess his girlfriend are going to be moving. Guys, get married before you move in together. Anyway, never mind. So they're in here. They're talking about we got to move, and the girlfriend looks at him and says, you got these two gray boxes under the TV. I don't even know what's in those. What's in these things? Of course, she's thinking, what can we pare down on while they're preparing to move into a different space? And I think the article kind of indicated maybe moving into a smaller space. And he's like, oh, that's my DVDs. And she says, when have you ever watched those? And he's like, well, gee, I don't know. Why does he not know? Because he's an unwitting pawn of the world. He is now owned. He is approaching in his personal life 2030, owning nothing and couldn't be happier because he's got all of the entertainment at the tips of his fingers until they decide it should be gone. And he says it's a reasonable ask. They said, couldn't we just dump those boxes and their contents, she says. And he says, yeah, it's a reasonable task. I don't remember the last time I even thought about the DVDs. He says, quizzed on the inventories, I might have just squeaked on by with a passing grade. For whatever was in there could surely be streamed by some subscription service we already had or replaced with digital purchases, and in either case could be flexibly enjoyed on more devices than just the living room TV connected to the Xbox One. Like DVD players are cheap. Like even my mother, who's like not technologically inclined, has multiple DVD players scattered throughout the houses. I found better solutions than even that, which we'll talk about in the solutions portion of this video. So still something else, something more than nostalgia, maybe bulk streaming requires continued payments to rent access to a library that's prone to changes beyond your control. They also come with restrictions and rely on the platform's continued existence and the sustained quality of an internet connection. Five very good points that he mentions in a little sentence that you may not even stop and ponder. But think about this. If you're paying all of this money for these streaming services and it goes, next month is really bad. I don't know if you guys have ever had bad income months, but I have. I remember when I was in college and I had almost no income. It was grad school. I had almost no income. It's like, oh man, my car is dying. I need to figure out how to save it. I literally lived on pancakes for 50 cents a day for about, I think, 3 months just to be able to save up enough to keep things going. If I was relying on streaming services, the entirety of my entertainment world would have gone into nothing. And then what would happen is I would bust one day and go, I just can't take it anymore, and go out and spend money that I didn't actually have. And that's really the challenge. So if the worst were to come to the worst and I had to cut down to absolutely nothing today, everything that I own for media entertainment, I still own. So if we have a lean month, sure, I'll just double down on movies that I've owned for a long time and maybe haven't even seen in 5 years because I have so stinking many movies. But these things can change repeatedly. And he's talking here, of course, about the entertainment. Now, he does talk about how the purchasing of DVDs has declined by 86% since 2016 and 2019, and the Blu-rays have dropped 24% since the 2013 peak. Why? Because everybody's going towards digital services, streaming services. Oh, it's so convenient. Oh, I pay one fee every month and I have everything I could ever want here. But the challenge is you're tied to the account. The account could go away. Your favorite movie could be pulled off of the service. This is happening all the time as more and more companies are creating their streaming services. Just give me the DVD. It's so much easier. But so many people are moving to this trend. So they talk about digital movie sales have begun surpassing the print media sales, we'll call it. And then what happens is people are purchasing non-physical media, which is more convenient. Of course, if you're traveling mobile or something, or you're a minimalist like I am, there's a big temptation to say, oh, just put everything on Kindle. Well, I don't necessarily want to do that. I like having the ebook server, and if I prefer to read a print copy, but for archival purposes, I'm okay with a digital copy. When I can find a digital copy that is not DRM locked, it is worth buying because I can put it into my library and have it forever. But if it's something that I have to buy that's DRM locked, I'm really not inclined, and I'm just not really interested in purchasing items that are DRM locked. And so in those cases, I'll buy a physical copy, and I have been known to take a physical copy and take a half an hour and scan it into the system. So I have a digital copy of such a device. And that is something that, again, Linux allows us to do, but we're not going to talk about that yet. We will get to there. So they're talking about this and how he pulls in the Jean-Paul Sartre in the essence, in the essential existentialist text, Being and Nothing, where he says, I am what I have. Of course, it was a play on I am as I think, right? This is I am what I have, which kind of is the consumer mindset, where we as a society, we tend to, for a period, we tend to be defined by our possessions. People were so gung-ho about impressing the neighbor. That was that whole concept of impressing the Joneses. Well, this is really what it was. Now, we have seen a positive trend where we're casting that off. Unfortunately, we're moving to something worse, where it's not that we're moving towards ownership without the arrogance or the competition, but instead we're moving towards not even owning anything. World Economic Forum is right. They're slowly moving us in that direction. It's 2030. I own nothing, and I couldn't be happier. But this is where we start to see some people talk about owning the book where they have and then have the digital version where they consume. Many DVDs you can purchase with a digital copy. Of course, the digital copy is DRM tied to the providing service. You still have to utilize those services in order to use the device. And so he comes down here a little bit more. When we own something, it becomes us. We are imprinted on it. He mentions as an example the notes made in the margin of books or the dings and dents in objects that are gained through use. In that sense, we're not only saying that it's ours, we're making it uniquely ours, rather than a generic fungible object that can be replaced by another. And this is where you get the element of sentiment. So you might have some degree of sentiment over the things that you have. I have books on my shelf that are sentimental. I may not read them anytime soon, but I don't really want to get rid of them. I had other books I was like, let's get rid of that crap, And so there's something to be said for each of those. Now, beyond all of these, the books and the entertainment and things, they also get down here and talk about tractors. So let's see, there's the digital and tangible. Down here, imagine you're a farmer, you've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on a fancy new tractor that's critical for your livelihood, but embedded in the tractor is a specialized computer system that plays a role in everything the tractor does. It says just about, but no, that's everything. Eventually, as with most machinery, something in the tractor goes awry and requires fixing. It's then you might learn that as a number of John Deere customers have in recent years, that your ultra-modern vehicle comes with a far-reaching catch because of its central software to the intellectual property of the manufacturer. The manufacturer may claim that you do not actually own the tractor outright. So here you've purchased hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment that you don't even own. They can be like, and at what point in time are they going to say, you voted for the wrong person in the last election? Pull your rights. This type of thing is starting to happen. There's an entire software license that is based on you can use the software as long as you don't have this ideology. That is dangerous. And this is where free software has its own purpose. Why we can't look down on the free software, because it is actually getting us out of this prison where we will actually be able to own, not own nothing. So the John Deere tractors, and by the way, let me tell you something, the non-technologically advanced John Deere tractors and other tractors are becoming even more expensive than these. Why? Because farmers do not want to mess with John Deere. I don't know if you know any farmers. I actually have a farmer, okay? I have a farmer that I go to for, he has syrup, he has eggs, he has milk, raw eggs, really good stuff, grass-fed. I almost run over the chickens going to the farm, and so I know they're good. These are free-range chickens, free-range cows. This is how he does things. So, and I have a lot of conversations with him about these things. These farmers, they can tear apart that tractor in individual components and fix them. The older tractors without these technological components are becoming more valuable because farmers are like, I'm not screwing with John Deere's crap. And this is why the right to repair bill has farmers and iPhone users on the same page battling the big corporations and the corporatocracy attempting to maintain control, saying, no, you do not have the ability to fix a tractor. I don't know if you know of farmers or not. Go meet a couple farmers. These guys can fix about anything. They're perfectly competent at fixing it. Oh, but you could hurt yourself. Screw you. My cows can hurt me, okay? I want to be able to fix the tractor so I can move the cows out of the way. And so this is what's going on. They're locking it down with DRM. Of course, John Deere's a mandatory licensing agreement, punishable by the company revoking your license. Ho-ho! And by the way, if you revoke your license because you are trying to fix something yourself rather than waiting for 6 weeks for the John Deere authorized repairman to come and charge you 5 arms and 5 legs, they just pull it out, and then you can't even buy it. You can't even do anything with it. No more selling off your tractor that you've used. It's just a piece of garbage. And they said, we've locked your tractor. You can't use it anymore. And that should be illegal. This is why we need right to repair on everything. This is why I love, despite this phone being an old phone, every component in this phone can be taken apart, can be reassembled. This thing is a modular device. And by the way, EOS still supports it. I just downloaded a new update to EOS today. Now, I'm running Lineage personally. I don't care if it's out of support or not. But if you do want to use an old Nexus 5X, EOS still supports it, still pushing out security patches. So they talk about some of the legal challenges. There's the first sale doctrine. If I go and I buy a book, I can sell that book to somebody else when I'm done with it. But if I buy a digital copy, I can't do anything else with it. This is why they want to do it. They want us to have these. It kills the sales. I used to be a college professor. Back in those days, you'd have to buy your textbooks, and then at the end of the year, people go and try and sell their textbooks back. This is why textbooks changed every 3 years, because changing the textbook every 3 years means that the college, the students are forced to have a newer edition. It kills the resale market for the books. It is a scummy, scummy practice. I actually used to work in academic sales as well. But what happened, they're like, man, we can even make this scummier. Watch this. Here, you can buy the book for $80. By the way, $80 is what I used to pay for the physical books. Now they're like $500 or something. Remember the first time I was at a conference, the first time I saw a textbook go over $500, I'm like, my Lord, that is more than my first car. It was an organic chemistry textbook. I looked at the guy next to me. I said, what, does it come with a gold-plated molecule kit? It was just McMurray-faced organic chemistry text. It was over $500 at Temple University. That was a number of years ago. I shudder to think what it's worth now. But right at that time, that was right at the time I was doing that, when these textbook companies were coming out, and they were like, well, let's just do PDF versions. We're going to save you a lot of money. We're going back to $80, but your book expires. You can't even open it in 18 months. And by the way, some college students like to keep their books. Why? Because you want to keep fresh on the knowledge. Sometimes it's a sentimentality. I still have college textbooks from my freshman year in college. My major books, I kept my major books. So, except my biochemistry books. I think I accidentally got rid of those at one point in time. I had a bunch of things in different boxes. I think one of them got discarded. Sadness, my biochemistry texts are gone. Oh, well. Anyway, moving on. The first sale doctrine allows people to sell books, but if everything is digital and you do not own it, you can't resell it. And then they get into the Internet of Things, which is now tied down with more locked DRM. You really can't do a whole lot more. And then they'll even start doing things like tracking data. They're talking about with these late night bedroom toys. And then here we have the right to repair battle. So there's also the right to hack, which includes right to repair, as demonstrated in the John Deere Tractus embargo. And then there is the right to sell, which the number of owner of digital media and software typically lacks, both negotiating their ability to recoup losses and eliminating the secondary market. This is important. If I buy something, I want to be able to resell it if I don't have a use for it anymore. And that's really what we get. So as far as these new dynamics seem, Fairfield argues they are actually harken back to an old long-reigning system of feudalism. Fine. Now it's not the grand aristocratic families, it's Silicon Valley big tech companies, but it's an identical system in terms of one person giving a right to another, giving it to another, giving it to another, who eventually hands on a little bit of you. And if anybody above you doesn't like it, or you don't use it the way they tell you, the whole thing goes away. And that's feudalism. That's exactly where we are. But we keep on handing money to these big companies without thinking about it. We're handing money to them for the right to own nothing and to be happy. Welcome 2030. It is coming. And if you are paying for these subscription services, you are part of the problem, because these companies will stop doing this if people stop using it. Now, there are obviously some advantages to these types of things. I don't want to say that they're entirely bad, but on a whole, I think that they are bad because they hurt the ability to even buy. If these companies are making all their money on streaming services and there's no incentive to have the DVDs, we will not even have the ability do it down the road. So anyway, basically, and that, by the way, is going to increase the pirate market. Just so these companies are aware, if you make a DVD available, I will buy it. There's a couple movies I'm looking for. They either were not available on DVD or I can't find them in my country. I may or may not be looking for where I can grab a digital copy of these movies. If you make it available, I will buy it. But you don't. Just saying. So we get that back down to the very bottom. Again, there's really nothing in here about solutions. It kind of concludes where he started. I still own the DVDs, but not all of them. I whittle them down to one little box, blah, 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 blah. There we have it. Very fascinating article. I encourage you to go grab the article. It's in the description and read it. Now, why do I say that Linux means ownership? Well, because free software means I can do with it what I want. Let me tell you how Linux has empowered me to have a lot of these other things without tying myself, giving my soul to the company. I do not have any streaming services, not even Amazon Prime. By the way, you can still get free shipping on Amazon, and it doesn't actually take 5 weeks to get to you. Week or two, maybe free shipping. By the way, hint, send it to an Amazon location pickup locker. I've actually literally ordered things on a Friday night, like probably Saturday morning, 1 a.m. Friday night, and had them on Monday. Free shipping, no Amazon Prime, all the time. I'm telling you. But with Linux, I can take my CDs, which I own, and I have them all in a little binder, but they're out of the way. They're stuffed in the back of a closet. They're not something I have to access, but if I need to, I can. I take these CDs and I can put them into a CD ripper and I can make digital versions. With Linux on a Raspberry Pi, I have a NAS which serves those, and this is a super low power device. We're talking 15 watt max, very low power device, serves those files to my whole system. Serving those files to my whole system, okay? Any computer, any phone, any device on my network, I can watch those. From the Raspberry Pi on the back of my TV, to my cell phone, to any computer on my network, to the tablets on my network, I can stream any of my music in my local network. If I attach a VPN, I can stream those things from outside my network. I can do that with movies. I can do that with music. I can do that with other forms of media entertainment. Linux means ownership. It means I can go out and buy the movie and buy the music and create digital copies for my own personal use. To have the convenience, to have all of these things that you guys are paying money for and giving up your ownership rights. Linux, for me, means ownership. What the article never touched on is if you buy a Windows or Mac and they're like, we're updating, then you're updating. Mac, you have a little bit more control over that. Windows is like, nope, we're updating. Deal with it, punk. And so they go ahead and they do the updating. On Linux, I have the freedom. Do I want to update or not? My Arch system is sitting over here, I think, with probably 200 updates because I only update it once a week. Okay, I'll get the updates next week. Other computers, I barely update at all. I'm not sure my MX Linux computer has ever updated. It is never on the internet. It doesn't need to update. It's done. It does exactly what I need it to do. I will connect to the internet, upload the file to the server, and then close the internet. That is the extent of the internet that thing gets used on. No need to update it. But I own the system. I own what the thing does. It's not going to lock me out. It's not going to DRM and shut itself down. It's going to continue to do what I need it to do. And if the computer breaks down, I can either replace a part, replace a computer, wash, rinse, recycle, and put it on, because Linux means ownership. It means that I can create a NAS. It means I can create a streaming service. There's Plex. You can put it on a Linux server online. That's another way that you can have your movies and some free streamed movies tied in that you can access from anywhere on the internet. Very cool thing indeed. Very cool thing indeed. And so all of these are little factors that we look at when we go into the world and we pay a subscription service to license something without any ownership, we are part of the problem. We are encouraging them to continue on to make sure we own nothing, and we will be happy by 2030. But if you want control, if you want to own and control your computer, if you want to own and control your movies, you want to own and control your music, you want to own and control your software, free software busts you out of the jail they keep on trying to put you into. Switch to Linux, people. If you have not tried it yet, go ahead and give it a try. It is very easy to figure out. If you're on Windows or Mac, there are software packages. I have whole separate videos about how to download an ISO image, put it on a USB drive, and try it on your computer without changing anything in your system. Try out Linux. It means ownership. It means not locking ourselves into the hell of what this future world that they are trying to do. This is critically important, guys. It is critically important that we sit down and we begin owning the things in our life again. Cast aside the feudalists. Cast aside the slavery. Cast aside the World Economic Forum, where they want us to own nothing by 2030 and be happy. No. Own stuff. Linux gives you the power to do that. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux. Thank you for watching this video from Switched to Linux. This channel would not be possible without the backing of the program supporters scrolling on the screen now. You can be a supporter at Patreon at patreon.com/TOMM or at thinklifemedia.com. I also want to thank the open source community who creates such excellent software that makes producing this show possible. Please remember to support your software communities. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.